You're listening to the Men's Dating Mastery Podcast with host Alec Chase, bringing you the experts in dating, sex, and relationships.
Hello, my dudes, and welcome to episode 20 of the MDM Podcast. Today, we have another Brit hailing from London, UK to speak with us. His name is Johnny Cassell, and he's an international dating coach who specializes in working with the elite. In other words, guys with a lot of money. Yet, despite what you might think, Johnny's a really down-to-earth guy, a gentleman, and he was a pleasure to speak with. In our conversation, we talk about how the dating challenges faced by high net worth men is different, as well as how it is exactly the same as far as ordinary guys, meeting and dating models, celebrities, and women of exceptional beauty in general, the importance of breaking patterns in order to stand out from the crowd, surrounding yourself with the right people, and putting yourself in the right places in order to get the best return on your efforts. Johnny used a couple of great finance analogies to drive this one home, and being a finance guy myself, they made quite an impression on me. And also, just for me, Johnny shared his story about how improving his social skills helped him make a whole lot of money for the family business. But despite all the talk about models, celebrities, rich guys, and money, I found this to be a very practical, down-to-earth conversation. Hope you enjoy the interview. On a separate note, if you have been keeping up with the podcast, then you already know that one of my guests, Frank Kermit, has been kind enough to give away 3 of his products for free to you, the listeners of MDM. These products are an ebook called The Emotional Needs of Women, a 3-set audio program called The Art of Charisma, from Creepy to Charisma, and another 5-set audio program called Pimping Your Pad. These are serious, in-depth products that normally go for $270. Frank was generous enough to give them away for free in order to encourage you to keep listening to the show. To get them, all you need to do is go to the show notes for episode 14 called Using Body Language to Create Attraction with Patty Contenta, or episodes 15 and 16, which are parts 1 and 2 of my interview with Frank Kermit called The 10 Emotional Needs of Women. You can find all 3 of these pages by going to the podcast page on mensdatingmastery.com and scrolling through the list. Once you're there, just click on the link under the title Free Giveaway at the top of any of the 3 pages to get the downloads. Like I said, these products represent $270 in value, which is why they will be available only until September 16th of 2015. After that, the only way to get them will be to buy them just like everybody else. So get them while they are still free. Now on to the interview. Hey, Johnny, welcome.
Hey, Alex. Nice to touch base with you again.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Let's kick the conversation off by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and how you help guys.
I've been helping guys since the start of 2007, for quite some time now. And my message is a little bit different from most of the trainers out there. I think what's wrong with this community is a lot of people, they kind of get in this and they don't have any direction. And I was one of those guys. When I first started learning this stuff, I was starting to experience success, and I was starting to experience responses from women that I hadn't normally experienced before. But I hadn't really stopped to think about what I actually wanted from it. It was kind of like a numbers game at the start. And my conclusion was, the purpose of getting into this is to meet women that are in align with your values and have the qualities for the long run. And if you have fun up until that point, so be it. I think, there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful thing. So that's kind of like my message that's kind of different from everyone else's, I believe, and it makes me a bit more unique is, I will teach you, I'll work with you if you're an introvert, I'll work with you if you're an extrovert, and I can appreciate we're all in this for different reasons. But I think, anyone listening to this podcast right now will all be nodding their heads just going, yeah, that's right. I am on this journey to meet that someone that is in line with my values, and I hope that's probably something that they haven't actually heard before.
That's fantastic. And you know what? That carries some depth to it. And generally, I like to have conversations with a little bit of substance and depth. So I might sound like a hypocrite now because I actually want to talk to you about something for the first time on this podcast that may come across as a little superficial.
Oh, all right. Let's hear it. What do you got to ask me?
Well, the first question is, I know that you specialize in helping high net worth individuals improve their dating lives. And I'm wondering, is there anything particularly unique about these kind of people? Is there anything unique about the challenges they face or the path that they need to go on to achieve success with women versus any other guy?
Well, I think, first of all, let's address the biggest misconception. A lot of, if you've got money, it's easy for you. I mean, money helps, don't get me wrong. It's just another prop, another tool. But if you've come from money, the kind of upbringing you've had is, if there's a problem, money will get rid of it, right? And people growing up into wealth, that is something they always come across. If there's a problem, they get rid of it. They don't need to make such commitments because they have this vast amount of wealth. However, improving your social skills, you can't just throw money at it and it just to be fixed. You actually have to put in the work. Of course, you can get a trainer or a mentor to help you and guide you in this area, but it's not something where you can just go, oh yeah, I need a girl. Okay, how much is it? Well, I mean, I guess you could, but not the sort of thing we're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible, but yeah, a bit of a different tune there.
Yeah, so high net worth individuals, they people from the outside think, well, I don't get it. Well, the fact is this: a lot of my clients are all successful in their own right. They've achieved remarkable things in their careers, and in order to get to that place where they are, they've had to actually sacrifice their social and dating life, right? Which just makes sense. If you've studied hard at university or college, you don't go out as much. Now, if you really are at the top of the tree in terms of your career, that studying hasn't really stopped. That work ethic hasn't really stopped. So something's had to go. So these type of guys, they're at a stage where they're content in their career and they're looking around and thinking, okay, yeah, I need to address this now. So there's two types of clients there. I'm talking about the people that come from money, where money normally gets rid of all the problems in their life, or the guys that have achieved success, they're at the top of their career ladder, and they're looking to fix this area. I mean, that's just two typical demographics if we're talking about the high net worths.
Listening to you say this, what I'm hearing is that, these guys might have one aspect of their life under control, and that's their financial resources, their careers, but that does not make them immune from any of the challenges that the rest of us mortal beings encounter when it comes to creating the kind of romantic relationships that we want. And kind of consistent with what I've observed, I can't divulge too much just out of respect for the individual, but I did meet a CEO not too long ago, CEO of a very large multinational company. And so he was very, very well established, very wealthy. And I had an opportunity to just hang out with him in public in the presence of women. And I saw him making all the same mistakes, having all the same issues, getting all the same negative responses that any other guy would have received. And it was really refreshing to see that, because despite his status, despite his wealth, he was not immune from any of the things that other guys have to face on a daily basis.
Yeah. I mean, that sort of individual, he's not going to have, he has this immense sort of power and presence in the boardroom, but take him out of the boardroom, and you put him around, put him in a room full of girls, they just fall apart, So it's interesting, but it kind of gives you perspective,
A shark might dominate the oceans, but you put a shark on land and not much you can do there.
Exactly.
It's about being in your element as well. Let me take it further down the road of superficiality. Mm-hmm. That's even a word.
If it isn't, I think you just coined it.
Yeah. You've dated models, celebrities, and just women with a very high social status in general. Now, mm-hmm. This is something I find interesting because I've heard a lot of coaches talk about these women and have very unique approaches to meeting and dating them that are different from, I guess, for lack of a better word, more ordinary women that you might encounter in your typical day-to-day. So Tell me, is that true? Is there anything particularly unique about these kind of women when it comes to meeting them, when it comes to approaching them, and when it comes to dating them?
Absolutely. I mean, one thing that's consistent in making impact is having the ability to break patterns. So if you want to make impact with anyone, you just kind of have to look at their pattern. What have they experienced the most? What are they used to hearing and how they're used to being treated? And just being very conscious of not to fall into that pattern. So let's take perhaps a celebrity as an example. Now, a very funny situation. I mean, I don't like to tell a story unless it's absolutely relevant to what we're talking about. And this one is a friend of mine invited me to a BAFTA pre-party. So, and I didn't really clock when we was at a fashion show. It was London Fashion Week. So it was at a fashion show. I just met this model there. Picked her up there, which was pretty cool. And my friend said, "Oh, we're going to go to Annabelle's now." I was like, "What? Why?" He goes, "Oh, we've got this pre-BAFTA party we're going to go to." And Annabelle's is like one of the most exclusive private members clubs in London. And I just thought, okay, cool. But it didn't really click what he was talking about, like the BAFTA party. I didn't get it. And then we drove down there, and then it wasn't until I actually entered the place that actually clicked. When I started looking around me and I saw the sort of caliber of people that was around, I started seeing, the first people I was introduced to was the producer and director of the film Captain Phillips. And we went up the stairs, we bumped into Idris Elba, we bumped into Pierce Brosnan, Olga Kurylenko, and all these like big producers and directors that I couldn't tell you who they were because I'm just not familiar with the industry. But obviously recognize a few actors. But the funny thing is, he goes, "Look, Johnny, you are going to see a lot of people here tonight that you probably know, but just don't try to stand out like a sore thumb." And I was like, "Look, man, cool, I get it. Yeah, I get it. Like, obviously, I don't want to blow our cover, sort of thing here, right?" And anyway, he started seeing the people that were like his heroes in his world. So he started seeing these producer directors from afar, and he just got all excited like a little kid. And it was him that was standing out, right? So if he actually went over to approach one of these celebrities, putting himself in what I call and what I like to familiarize my clients with, the term is putting himself in the fan zone, right? And that is very important. If you're looking to make impact with a celebrity, the biggest pattern they've come across is people consistently putting themselves in the fan zone. If you're seeing a celebrity on the street, sometimes we just can't help it because the media do such a great job of heightening these people's profiles. It's phenomenal. I mean, that's a different level of game altogether when we talk about the media, but obviously we're not going to go down that road. That'd be a very lengthy conversation. But it kind of makes us go, wow, I have this awe factor. But what we're forgetting is these people are just human beings and they want to be in an interaction where it's just normal. So that's pretty much it. As silly as that sounds, you've just got to have a normal interaction with these people. Like a friend of mine once said, was talking about this guy at school at the time, was really young. And he was, "Oh yeah, Nick, I can't believe he thinks he's got a chance at that girl. She's well out of his league." And I was really annoyed. And I said, "What do you mean he's well out of his league? I mean, this guy was fat and he wasn't, he was a fat guy and he probably was well out of her league because he didn't come from that place of self-belief." And, but I was still annoyed. I was like, "Well, what do you mean out of his league?" And he goes, "Well, okay, well, look, John, what are you trying to say? Like, if you were, do you think you have a chance with Cheryl Cole, which is a singer over here in the UK?" And I go, "Well, if you put her in the same room as me, I think she'd have a good chance, yeah." Right? But because I don't think of them as like, "Oh, wow, look, there's a celebrity." It's just, I need to go over there and just shoot the shit or make that person think that I know everyone else but that person, if that makes sense. So it's just playing around with the dynamics and just understanding the patterns that those people would experience and just breaking them.
Right. And the way I envision this is ultimately when you're meeting people, whether it's women, especially women, it's really all about establishing a connection. Even if it's for a one night stand or a fling, you still need some kind of man to woman human connection. And if you're idolizing somebody, you're almost putting up a wall that segregates you from them. And you're doing it themselves by going into, what you described as this fan mode. That's how I interpret it.
Yes. And, I've encountered many, people that have got a hidden profile with the celebrities and stuff along the way, not just women. And I've had this conversation openly with them. Have you found like guys that have, celebrities that have gone through, marriage and had a divorce and had the trouble of meeting someone new because every person that they put themselves in front of just still saw the celebrity rather than the person. Do you see?
Absolutely. So you've given us one great tip, and that's treat them like normal human beings. Can you offer any other tips for guys who might want to date models or just women of exceptional beauty in general?
Yeah, so a big point that you need to address right now is looking at your environments, right? If you work with me, if you heard me speak on any sort of platforms, you always hear me say, get the best return on your time, right? So look where you're spending your time. If you're spending it at that bar that you've been going to week in, week out, and you've been telling yourself, yeah, one day the woman of my dreams is going to walk through, or one day there's going to be a model that walks in here and I'm going to bag her. Well, the chances are, if a model did actually come through, you probably shit yourself because you haven't experienced talking to models. You've just experienced just talking to, the status quo in that area. So, big tip is think about the sort of girls that you're interested in. If they are models, we'll think, well, how can I get closer to these environments? And what are these environments? Who do I need to get connected with to potentially give me access to this environment? So the more you got your way of thinking about that, and that actually can be a really big breakthrough for a lot of people. And as simple as that sounds, it was a big thing for me. I was caught up in that whole thing, going to the same place week in, week out, because I wasn't taking charge of my own reality. I wasn't being the shepherd in my social scene. I was being the sheep. My friends wanted to go to this same place week in, week out, watch a band or go to a pub. Yeah, those pubs we have in England. And I just fell into that pattern for a while. And it comes to a point where I thought, you know what? Life's better than this. This is not me living my life. And I'm seeing the sort of women that I wanted. And I realized that the people that I was hanging around with, they just didn't have the same outlook as me. They were caught up in this pattern. So that is a really big tip. I mean, think about it. And I can quite happily discuss with you what sort of environments to find these women in. I did a video on YouTube and I discussed a few of these. And one could be like, if you're a business guy, you see, and you go onto these conventions and these, these business showcase events, you will find models at these trade shows, right? They're there. If you want to find out where to take your next lunch break, go on Google right now and type in your area, or type in model. If it's for the Canadian listeners, type in model agencies Canada, right? And look for a coffee shop in that area, because the models are going to be in that area because they're going to go in and out of the agency all day. So just little things like that. And there's always going to be a scene, like there's always going to be like club promoters and stuff that are really well connected with these girls. So you've really got to do a bit of networking in the nightlife scene if you want access on that front. I mentioned about photographers. So obviously, like photographers, they're taking pictures of models all the time. So get more acquainted with people who work in photography. So it's just, you just got to kind of open your mind a little bit more about how am I spending my time, where am I spending my time, and who am I being associated with?
Here's something that has bugged me for a long time, and I welcome you to bring me down to earth after I say this. But the two things that you just said are, go to the right places. If you want models, if you want women of beauty, go to where these kind of women go. In addition, try to befriend or surround yourself with the kind of people who would be in their social circle. So photographers, for example. Now, to me personally, that seems like a lot of work. So what I'm getting at is, if you're a guy who's really into fashion and these are kind of places and events that you would enjoy anyways, great. All the power to you. But let's face it, most guys don't really care. They just want the girl. They don't really care about all the stuff around her. And so just give me a very real perspective. Is this reality? If this is what you want, then this is what you have to do and just suck it up? Or is there a less time consuming, more direct way to go about achieving your goal?
Well, it's very simple. Like I said, it's how much you got to work out how much time are you spending on doing this right now, right? And this isn't something that, and this is I'm glad you've asked me this question, to be honest, because it's a really important message I want to put out there. This isn't a sport, right? I don't teach my guys this stuff so they can spend Sunday afternoon running down, the streets of London, chasing women and making people feel uncomfortable. That's not what I'm about. What I want to do is give guys the tools and the ability to, when they do see that girl they're interested in, bang, they can do something about it. Because a lot of fucking guys out there just can't pull that trigger. Now, in terms of what you just said, it seems like a lot of work. Well, all we're doing is just changing the place that we're going. So if you got this bar in mind, for listeners, you've got this bar in mind that you're going to go out this weekend, right? And you're going to go out that place for the rest of the year, right? Maybe 4 times a month for 12 months, 10 months, whatever.
Right.
If you change that environment to a more high-yielding environment, then that's just the same amount of work, just better return on your time. For the big guys, the bankers listening, or the people in finance, you'll get it. If you're not getting a good return on your money, you take your money out of that stock and you put it in something else that's giving you a better return.
Yeah, you know what? I love that because I actually do have a finance background, and that analogy resonates with me perfectly. That's how I was conditioned to see the world through all of my studies and my career. So I like that analogy.
So that answers your question, Alec.
Absolutely. Thank you. Cool. So to move away from what I call the superficial things and to talk about something a little bit more meaningful, you talk about the importance of being very selective when you choose a woman. Can you elaborate on that? What's that all about? What do you mean by that?
Okay, so a lot of people, and this is very important, if we're still on the subject of like meeting models or women of that caliber, you take them for face value, meaning you elevate their value and put them on a pedestal simply based on their looks, right? Now, again, Alec, this is really going to resonate with you, right? But looks fade. Looks fade. They're not an asset, really. I mean, if you look at the model industry, with the exception of a few,
it's very, very young.
They're very, very young. Their careers end around 27. Be lucky if they reach that height. Obviously, with the exception of a few, we've had some women come out of London that had some phenomenal careers. Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell. But you look at the males' modelling career. It lasts a lot longer. Reason being, men just get more handsome as we get older, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you remember this, there was a very funny kind of blog that went round, and I don't know if it was true or just a bit of clickbait that, I found it very amusing, but there was a lot of sense in it, to be honest, and this will really resonate. So there was this rich girl, right? Not rich girl, just this gold digger, right? This gold digger she was on this rich list forum, and she wrote this open letter, and she goes, "Can anyone help me? I'm looking for a guy that earns in excess of 200K a year. I live in Manhattan, and anything less than 200K is actually considered poor. So if anyone can help me work out where I can find these guys, that would be great." So supposedly the CEO of JP Morgan replied and said, "Dear Miss Pretty, I'm earning in excess of 500K a year, so I'm sure that meets more than meets your requirements. You're basically saying you want to exchange beauty for money. And the reason why none of my friends would do this is because you're a depreciating asset. Over time, your looks will fade. and our assets will appreciate. Therefore, like any sort of stock that's losing value, you will only get leased or sold. So my friends may date you, but they won't keep you, right? And, it was a bit of a controversial kind of post, but in a way it kind of made sense. There's a reason why the cosmetic industry is a multi-billion-pound industry. Women are obsessed with holding on to their looks because they know this. There's a certain age, it's behavior difference when women are in their 30s, they get a little bit less bitchy. They're shit testing you a lot less because they know they can't be that picky anymore. So what I mean by being selective is, look, the looks are a given. It's understanding what you like in detail, visually what you like, and then the qualities. The qualities are going to be the character traits that she possesses. Now, this is going to be the investment for the long run. So if the moment you make yourself aware of that, the moment you come from a more of a qualifying frame, rather than just accepting her based on her looks, you're qualifying her based on the requirements that you want from a woman. And this isn't anything manipulative or anything like that. Women do this to us all the time. In actual fact, I learned this from a girlfriend of mine. We were hanging out, and there was a list on her phone, and it was called her Orbiters list. And I was like, what the hell?
She literally called it that.
Yeah, she called it the Orbiters list. I was like, that is hilarious. Give me that. She goes, what? I go, what is this? And she goes, well, look, these are the guys I'm dating, and these are the reasons why, I would be with them. And I was thinking, you're kidding me. And I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, if you asked a guy right now what his type was, 9 out of 10 of those guys would go, what do you mean? My type's hot. It's not good enough. That's very vague. It doesn't take a lot to find a hot girl, so you have to be, the more selective you are and the more detailed you are with it, the more chance of you obtaining a woman of exceptional qualities rather than someone that you just kind of settled for because it was convenient at the time, which kind of backs up my whole message of meeting women for the long run that are in line with your values.
Right. And to me, there are two very powerful things underlying everything you just said. On the one hand is you're essentially protecting yourself by making sure that you end up with not only a beautiful woman, but a decent human being.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, just by coming from that frame of, I know what I want and I'm filtering for it, probably makes you a lot more desirable as a man as well.
Absolutely. And again, you're breaking a pattern, if she's been gifted with, beautiful features, then she would have learned the patterns in human behavior, how guys are treating her, and the chat up lines, and it's just the moment you just don't fall into that pattern and you get her qualifying into, okay, so tell me something about you, right? Like go in a bit more detail with it, you've got her attention.
Here's something you've said that I really like.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to approaching women, whatever you assume is fine is fine. Tell the listeners what that means.
Within reason, of course. I like to add.
So we're not talking about getting yourselves arrested or breaking any laws.
No, that's not fine, Don't break any laws. Okay, so this point, I've said this because you either come from a place of certainty or you come from a place of doubt. If you come from a place of doubt, you are not offering a woman security. They can see that. It's like trying to buy a car. If you go down the Ferrari garage or whatever, you're going to buy a car. Are you going to buy that car if the guy's not looking you in the eyes, or he's not kind of coming from a place of certainty? He can't tell you about the past owner of that car, or how well it drives or anything like that. You have to come from a place of certainty. It gives women security. Okay. If you are overthinking something like, oh, should I touch her here? Should I touch her there? It's over. Like, you've just got to do it. You've got to do it. What's another good example? So you've seen a girl across the room,
Mm-hmm.
In your head, you're kind of battling with, oh, should I, shouldn't I? You're moving into certainty, you're moving into doubt, certainty, doubt, certainty, doubt. And then you kind of shuffle forward, and then you kind of shuffle back to your group of friends. And she's seen this. No way in hell do you think you can actually go back over there and actually make a successful approach. You are going to be really going against the current, because she's already made up in her mind you are coming from that place of doubt. And that is not what she wants in her life. She wants a guy that's firm with himself, knows what he wants, and obtains what he wants when he chooses. And she wants to be that person.
So what we're talking about here, if you're going to do something, commit to it and do it with authority.
Yeah. And also as well, it's like, in terms of escalating, like, talking to women, for a lot of guys is hard. And it was hard for myself back in the day. But then it's escalating it, right? It's adding a sexual connotation. It's planting the seeds in their head for things to come. If you hold yourself back from actually taking that step, then it's never really going to go there. She's never really going to see you as someone that she could potentially sleep with, because you're playing it too safe. If you think it's fine, it is fine. If you go out of that attitude like this weekend and have that idea in your head, you'll be very surprised how effortlessly, things become. A lot of guys think, oh yeah, but I don't want to get the slap in the face. I've been doing this for 8 years, right? I've never seen the slap in the face. I've never seen the F off as well. A lot of guys don't want to be worried about approaching women because they're going to get the big F off. I've never seen it. I mean, I couldn't put a number on how many students I've had and how many approaches I've experienced and seen. And I've never seen the F off. Like, if there's anyone that can tell you, like, if that's guy's biggest fear, if there's anyone that can tell you that exists or not, believe me, it's me. It doesn't exist. And I tell you what, if anyone that is listening to this and they get the F off, man, well, they just won themselves a free program from over my side, man, because that's going somewhere. Yeah? That's going some. That's someone pushing it.
Yeah, and I'm actually very happy you mentioned that for a very specific reason. I feel like a lot of guys who decide to practice meeting women for the first time, if that's something they haven't done before, they go into it as if they were going into a war. Like, they're on a mission to get the woman, and the woman is going to resist them. And so it's this adversarial battle to win her over. And I think what you just said is a good illustration to highlight the fact that that's a false assumption. It's not adversarial.
Yes. Right. I mean, you can't really go. I mean, I'm working with a guy on my 7-day program this week, and part of the issue we're working with at the moment is he's approaching things too seriously, and he's getting frustrated very quickly because of this sort of analytical background that he has. And, he's forgetting to actually enjoy the process and have fun. So we've been doing a lot of exercises with him on, how to, the object is not to go and pick up the girl. It's to go and approach that girl and just mess around. Just have a laugh, have a joke, improve her day. If you focus on improving someone's day, it becomes really easy to close, because that's what they remember. They don't remember some guy picking them up. They just remember having fun.
Johnny, there's a question. I wasn't going to ask you this, but it looks like we have time for it. And so this is coming from my own personal curiosity. I was reading up about your story, and I know that when you first started working on your own dating life and taking proactive action towards that, you're also doing sales in your family business. And the one thing that this particular article said is that as your social skills improved and as your communication with women improved, you actually started selling better. You started connecting with your clients more, and the family business sales actually went up. And I found this very, very interesting. And that's because I've personally known a few sales guys, and successful ones actually, and they've tried to do essentially the reverse. So they would apply what they knew in sales to meeting women, and it didn't work.
Right.
And so I'm curious to know about your experience and why things went down the way that they did for you.
Well, it was a really important lesson. I mean, just to give you an idea of how bad I was, I couldn't even pick up the phone to make a sales call. Like I couldn't pick up the phone to just phone someone up and, book an appointment to pop down and introduce myself. I couldn't do it. And what I realized was there's a few lessons. Is when you realize you're getting a bit of resistance over something, you're about to break through. You're about to obtain a new skill. So when it feels like your body's fighting, don't think, that's just what you got to understand. It's you're about to learn something new. Therefore, you're about to grow. Your body is trying to protect you into the comfort zone, but that comfort zone is not a growth area. So at the early days, making these appointments, I was going around. I was booking these appointments in. I was going around, and I wasn't trying to sell. I was just going around and just introducing myself and just building basic rapport. And I keep doing that for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And then there'd be something that they needed. And that's when that was kind of the breakthrough for me. It was the conversation skill, actually giving a shit about someone rather than I'm going in there to close the deal. I'm going in there to see if they want anything, and then bang, get some business. It doesn't work like that. You don't just approach a girl and go, right, I'm taking you home right now. I mean, I say that, I have seen that, but I mean, more times than none, you don't do that. You have to build rapport first, right? And it's the same with sales. It's the same with women. And I teach. You'll see a lot of crossover in this stuff. A lot of people have came back to me and said, this didn't just help improve my dating life. This helped improve my social life and the way I'm now doing business. It's given me the confidence to talk in front of others, engage with people that are higher up the ladder than me, and do the sales thing. But that was it really. It was just I was developed the confidence to open up new accounts. I'd walk around. It was in the welding industry actually, and I'd literally walk around a whole industrial estate, right, and knock on every door because I know they were doing something in terms of doing welding. It was offering services and products and stuff like that. And I just literally do that. That's how my days were made up. I just drive around an industrial estate and knock on doors and just try to build rapport, just introduce myself, not to make a sale there and then, just to introduce myself. Then I drive to the next town, to the next. My whole diary was filled up with industrial for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And we put up a lot of business. And it got to a stage where we couldn't take it all on.
Oh, wow.
So, that's not my problem. That was the business's problem, But it's good. I mean, I've done a lot, and that's something I enjoy as well. Giving people like some sales training.
Thanks for answering that. I'm very much interested in dating and social dynamics, but it was kind of a selfish question because I was also interested to see how it overlapped with your business life. You've shared a ton of value, a ton of great insights. If we could keep it in the context of our overall conversation, do you have any final words of advice for guys who are working on improving their dating lives?
Yeah. If you look back on this podcast, you'll hear that I've mentioned you've got to get the best return on your time. So straight away, look at your environments and start switching them up for places that are more high yielding. I'd also look at the people you're hanging around with and position them in a different area of your life if they're not giving you value in this area. So say you've got a buddy that you go out with or a couple of buddies and all they want to do is get drunk at the bar and, kind of blow you out when it comes to you approaching women. Those aren't the guys you go out with. Those are the guys you probably go and watch the soccer game with or something, right?
Right.
You've got to find someone that's on the same page as you. That's what I did. I took myself away from a lot of guys that had this kind of, kind of attitude. And I looked around me and I thought, well, who's kind of on a similar page as me? And I got a guy that was actually in the indie kind of scene, like the music scene. And I was in the more sort of commercial scene. And I literally taught him everything I knew. So one thing I would say is make sure you give back anything that you learn, give it back to someone. And that's probably why a lot of people that remain teaching this remain at that level because they're constantly giving it back, giving it back, giving it back. Now, for you listen to this, you don't want to become a trainer. You don't become someone that's doing this, but just make sure you pass it back to someone because it will recycle back in your head. So like I say, get someone and what the beauty of that is, if you find a wingman that's in a different scene, then you've got some incredible crossover there. You don't just limit yourself to one scene. So get a better return on your time, make sure you're around the right people, and maybe look to get a wing girl as well.
Okay.
Maybe get a wing girl. Try it out. It's something I did at the start, and it's very good for pre-selection when you're going out.
And when you say wing girl, you're not just talking about going out with a female friend of yours. You're talking about somebody who's going to literally help you meet other women.
No, I'm just talking about, because a lot of people get kind of, sorry, when I say wingman and wing girl, so I'm just using geeky terminology, but I mean, just someone that you go out with and enjoy, and she gets it. She gets it. You're on the same page. If you go out to socialize, meet new people, you go out and do stuff with each other. But I mean, my best wingman was a guy that worked at a pub, right, at a bar, and was a part-time DJ. And the reason why he was so good was because, and he wasn't interested in getting laid or anything. He just had the chat because he's always client-facing. So that's what you ideally want. A lot of people think, well, I'm an older guy, all my friends are married. It doesn't matter. Just find someone that is sociable. All you want is when you go to the loo and come back, that person has held before. Yeah. So, because that can be really frustrating if you're doing all the work.
You know what? I wholeheartedly agree with you when it comes to these quote unquote having a wingman or a wing girl. I think what you really want is just somebody who knows how to go out, have fun, and be social, not somebody who's gonna do backflips to help you get laid that night. Because the former is probably gonna be more effective, at least in my experience.
Exactly. Or trying to stand on your toes and compete with you. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is the worst, really is. And that's, like I say, that's what I had to get myself away from. Like the sort of people that would never approach, but as soon as you go and approach, they're at the side of the bar throwing ice cubes and they're hitting your head and you look really silly. It's funny now, but like when you're trying to get good at something, it becomes very frustrating.
Yeah, those are not people who have your back.
No.
Johnny, if guys want to learn more about you, if they want to get a hold of you, where can they find you?
You can find me on my website is johnnycassell.com. That's JohnnyCassell. I'm also on all the social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that kind of things. But if you've got any questions off the back of this podcast, obviously, throw us over an email and I'll personally get back to you. It's info@johnnycassell.com.
Perfect. And we'll have the email address and the links you mentioned in the show notes. mensdatingmastery.com as always. Johnny, thanks so much. Really, really pragmatic advice, which is what I really like to hear. So thank you for sharing it all.
No worries. It's been a pleasure, Alec.
That is it for this interview, guys. Don't forget that you can get Frank Kermit's 3 products, The Emotional Needs of Women ebook, The Art of Charisma from Creepy to Charisma 3-set audio program, and the Pimping Your Pad 5-set audio program by visiting the show notes for episodes 14, 15, or 16, all of which can be found on the podcast page at mensdatingmastery.com. Once you've found the show notes, click on the link under the title Free Giveaway at the top of the page to get the products. Remember that these products represent $270 in value and therefore will be available only until September 16th of 2015. So you only have a limited time to get them for free. After that, you'll have to shell out some money just like everybody else. Thanks for listening, and until next time.
Thank you for listening to Men's Dating Mastery, a podcast dedicated to improving the lives of men and the women around them.